History of Man overview, where the dimensional beings were infused into the physical. This is obviously a fascinating point because the proof of that is every human being, because the dimensions is the mind, while the physical body is the physical body. So every human being is proof of it, because in the dimensions you have no time, just like you have in your mind no time. You can jump time, you can do all kinds of wonderful and crazy things which drugs help to emphasize. And in fact, if one study reality, what remains even after death is just the mind. Many would call it the universal mind. And we will still do interviews on when we met the universal mind, which was fascinating stuff. But the important point about the infusion of the dimensions into the physical was the creation of the mind and the mind consciousness system. It was then created and infused through the relationships that was pre-designed, which eventually, not immediately in the beginning, but eventually became the soul construct. And the soul construct then meant that you could in your mind create all kinds of types of personalities, and then in the life overview they can take one personality out, and that continues as the soul and becomes the soul body, and you delete the others, and you leave the information that is relevant in the Akashic record for the next life, so you at least have some form of timeline to walk, which was still in the beginning that was quite relevant, because there was a conflict between the various creator gods in terms of how much authenticity and authority should be given to this new creation, the merging of heaven and earth. So in a way, the whole Bible stories was like a form of a dichotomy where they would give you some truth and some bullshit and manipulate the information to such an extent that you would not realize that the relationship between the mind or the dimensions and the physical must be one and equal, otherwise you will create in fact a conflict between heaven and earth, and a conflict in heaven would manifest as a war in heaven, which is all the kinds of psychological problems that exist today in the mind, like depression and psychotic breakdowns, all kinds of stuff. That's in fact war in heaven, where you are fighting to be God, and you are fighting with all your creations, your children, which is all your personalities, to see which one will be dominant, and the dominant one that could even take it out of you at your point of death and play around with these things. It's amazing the stuff that was actually happening and possible. Some of it's been experienced when they use various drugs. What you actually use, DMT or any of those kind of things, you will end up experiencing your creation and the combined creation of consciousness within the context of your plugging into it. So you'll have a view that you can access to a degree of it, seldom having any form of beings coming through. I